What is going on, everyone? Shae here, and in this video I'm going to be going over 17 formulas that you can use that is instantly going to expand your Excel knowledge and give you some of the functions that you may use on a daily basis. Now, to start off here, any formula that we start with should always begin with an equal sign. So let's go ahead and get started with the add formula. In the add formula, let's say that we have numbers 5 and 1, and we want to add these two together. Now, instantly what we could do is say equals 5 plus 1, enter, which is going to give us 6. However, we want to reference these cells. So we're going to say equals, and then we're going to come over here to the cell B1 plus C1, enter, and we're going to get our answer 6. So now anytime that we change these values, it's going to be referenced to these cells. So if we change this one to a 2, we should see this box turn to 7. And there we go. So in the same way, when we come here to the subtract formula, we'll go ahead and say we're going to subtract, let's say 2 from 4. So we're going to say equals 4, right, minus, and then again C2 here, C2, enter, and you're going to see 2. Again, we can change these numbers, and this will also reflect that. Now, when we do the multiplication item, now there's a couple ways to do this, but let's go ahead and do a simple one. We will go 2 and 5 here. So 2 times 5, obviously 10. So what we want to do is say we want this to equal, and then again 2, and the times, you'll see a little star on your keyboard. You can press the star, and that will multiply whatever the following cell reference is. So now we have 2, again, times the C3, which is 5, which equals 10. Now, to do the division side of this, again, we'll do the same thing. So we'll go ahead and add a 6 and a 3. So we'll go ahead and say equals 6, right, B4, divided by, this is going to be your forward slash, and then you're going to also select the next cell that you would like to divide it by. So again, the forward slash is what's going to give you the division, enter, and of course 3 goes into 6 2 times. Now the sum formula can be done many different ways, but for example, let's go ahead and go 5 and 5. So obviously 5 plus 5 is equal to 10. So we could either come up here and do an addition item where we say, okay, what is the sum of 5 and 5? We could add those. However, there's a couple ways to do this. You can say equals, and then you can say 5 plus 5, which would be the sum of 5 plus 5, or you can say equals, and as you begin to type sum, you're going to notice that we're going to have some choices down here. We want to select the sum function. As we click that, you will notice that we are prompted down here to input our values. Now, the reason I say there's a couple ways to do this is because we can decide to do one of two things. You see, it says number 1, number 2, ... which just means you can add multiple numbers. What we will do is say we want B, and then comma is how you move over to the second number. You'll see a little comma indicator between there. You press the comma key, and you click this cell, and then you're going to close parenthesis, and then enter, and you're going to see 10. However, there's also another way to do this. Press your equals, sum again, and then what we're going to do is we're going to click, hold the left click down, and slide over to the next cell you want to sum up. So now you're going to notice there's a colon between these two. This means that it's going to take the sum of all cells ranging in this value. So the range of cell B5 to C5 is going to sum up. Close your parenthesis and press enter. You're going to see 10. Now the close parenthesis is not necessary all the time. However, it is a good habit to get into. So as you can tell, we'll do this and press enter, and it'll still come up with 10. You'll see it automatically closes it. However, as you get more complex formulas and things like that, closing your parenthesis is going to be increasingly more valuable. So get in the habit of just closing it. Now moving over to the minimum formula, we're going to see that we can press the equals, and going off of our typing it again in the cell, we can press MIN, and we're going to notice that we are given a couple functions here. We want to look for the min function. Again, this is going to prompt you with number 1, number 2, but this is going to give you the lowest value in a set of numbers that you desire. So for instance, if we go ahead and say, what is the minimum of all of these numbers here? Again, you're going to see B1 through D5. This range is what is going to be searched for in this function. So we're going to close parenthesis, and you can go ahead and guess right away. So it's saying we are going to search for the minimum value of this range. Now you can see there's a 2, and then you have a 1. So we should get a value 1, which is saying that's the lowest value in that range. Enter, and there is 1. Now if I change that 1 to say a 4, you're going to notice that our minimum is now 2 because we have all kinds of 2's here. And so now we no longer have the 1 value, aka our minimum is now 2. Now when we come to the max, again, equal sign, max, max, and the function here is maximum. We're going to select the range again, and again, go ahead and guess what exactly the highest value is. That would be a 10. However, it's going to automatically show you what your maximum value in this range is. Press enter, and there's your 10. Now moving on to the count function here. Count is simply a way in which you will count the number of cells that have a value, a numerical value in them. So if we press equals, again, type count, and it's pretty intuitive to say, okay, what does count do? Well, count sounds like it will count the number of cells in a specific range. Now, count A will give you a little bit different insight. However, we're going to go with this function. This counts numerical values. So if we select this number of cells and we say count, we have 1, 2, 3 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you should have 15 different cells here that have numerical values. So in our count function, we should get 15. How many cells have a numerical value? Enter. 15. Now you'll also notice, let's go ahead and redo this. Let's go ahead and add some non-numeric values here. So right here, we remember that there was 15 cells with numerical values, but we have added 5 more cells. Now when we close the parenthesis and press enter, you're going to notice it comes back as 15. This is because it's counting only the numerical values. Now when we come down here to the count A formula, we're going to go ahead and press equals count A, and you're going to see right here, there's your function. Click that function, and we are going to select all of this right here. So remember, we had 15 cells here, and then we added 5. However, we didn't get that count here because it does not consider any non-numerical values. Count A will count any cell that has a value. It could be a period, it could be whatever the case. As long as it has a value in the cell, count A will count it and will acknowledge that it has a value of some kind and should be considered in the count. So we'll close parenthesis, and of course 15 plus the 5 should be 20, not 15, because we're not only considering the numerical values. Press enter, and there's 20. Now the average formula is one that you may be using quite extensively. So for example, let's go ahead and say that we have the values, we'll call it 5, 10, and 15. Now the average of 5, 10, and 15 should be 10, right? So if we say equals average, you'll see the prompt here. What are your numbers? 5 through 15. So C10 through E10, 5 through 15, close parentheses, we should get the value 10. Press enter, and there's 10. So it's saying the average of these 3 numbers is 10. We can do it again with 1, and we'll call it 3 and 2. So the average is, of course, 2. The average between 1, 3, and 2 is 2. Now, why is this valuable and what can you use this function for? Well, let's go ahead and say you want to know that, let's say all of these are different scores. Let's say you have a baseball team or something like that. You want to know what is your average home run percentage. Say these are, we'll call it home runs for the season. These are your average number of home runs for your team. Some of the individuals are heavy hitters and can do 10 home runs a season. Some only do 2, some do 7, maybe a little bit more middle of the pack. We'll close parenthesis here and it'll say, what is the average home run that you can expect out of any one player? You press enter, it's 4.86. So almost 5 home runs per season is what you're expected to get out of every single player. So there you can kind of assess exactly who your heavy hitters are and also run them against these numbers. So to say, hey, you know what, the 2 and the 3s are really behind the 4s. We can improve a little bit to get a little bit more power in there, but definitely we need to get our 2s up because they are either not connecting with the ball, things like that. Now the median function is a little bit different in that it's similar to the average. It shows you your middlemost value. So if we say equals median, there it is, equals median, we'll say of this range. So what is the middlemost value in this range? You close your parentheses and press enter. So here it's saying 5 is the middlemost value. Now the concatenate function is very useful when using it with, let's say, addresses or names, things like that. So let's say that you have an address that's 5000 West East Street. So we have an address here, 5000 West East Street. Now, when you say, oh, I want these values together, I would rather them not have 5000 West East Street separated. I want them only together because that's part of the street address, because West East is not actually our city. So we need to concatenate these two together. So you say equals concat, and this one's just concat, it's not concatenate. Concat, and then you're going to see what is the text here, and you're going to say the text is 5000, comma, West East Street, close parentheses, and press enter. Now what you're going to notice, I'm going to expand that, and then what you're going to notice here is you have 5000 West East Street. However, you're going to notice that 5000 West East Street looks a little strange because there is no space in between the 5000 West East Street. So to solve this, we're going to press equals concat, select the cell for the first one, so 5000, comma, and what you're going to do is you're going to say insert the text in between, and I want it to be open quotes, press the space bar, that's going to give you your space, close quotes, comma, select the next cell, close parentheses, and now what you're saying is place the first text located in C12, add a space, and then add the next text in D12. This is going to input that space that we were lacking. Press enter, and you'll notice now that we have that space separating 5000 and West East Street. Now the other thing is, let's say that I put my name in here. This could be as simple as you have a column here that you want to have a first and last name, and this is going to be all your employees, and you're going to have them all separated like that. But yet you want to issue them all thank you cards, and so you're going to add this concatenate function, and you're going to add the first and last names like you would, yet insert the concatenate function. That way you have the address on the card correct. Now the if function is going to be very valuable to you. You're going to use it more times than not. So let's have a little example here. So let's say that a score of 100 equals an A+ score. So let's just say you put all the scores in this column here. And you say if equals, if, logical test. So here's your little prompt. So what's the logical test? We want to say if this cell is equal to 100, then what we want to say is place your comma and say what is the value if it is true. Again, the quotes is going to be your text in Excel. So we want to say good job, me, right? That's a good job if you get the 100 on the test. Then the comma, if this value is false, so if you did not get 100, we want to say needs work, right? So there's your logical test. And so what we're saying is if this cell, C13, equals 100, we want to say good job. And if it doesn't equal 100, we want to say, hey, it needs some work. We're going to press enter, and you're going to say, oh, it says good job. Now let's say I score a 70. Enter. Needs some work. And the best part about this is you can actually add your tolerances in here. So we want to say if cell C13 is greater than or equal to, let's say, a 70%. If you get a 70 or higher, you get a good job. And if you get a 70 or lower, hey, you need some work. You're scoring D's to F's. We need to do a little bit better job, maybe study a little bit more. So again, there's your greater than or equal to 70. You press enter, and you're going to notice we have a 70 now. So when we press 80, you're going to see the good job, 90. Let's say you got 1,000% because you're that good. Or you get a 69%, enter. Oh, you need work now. So that's a nice way to say, you know, if you're going to draw up an if function, if that occurs, produce some sort of text or some logical test that you would reference for yourself. And this could be as simple as if your customer did not buy product within the last year, contact them and just kind of follow up via email or something like that. You can kind of produce these little functions to where then you can filter by, hey, who is our contact list, who isn't. You can have something very easy to use. Now, the CountIF function is similar to the if function. However, what you want for the CountIF is to give it specific criteria to say, I want you only to count the values that include X. So we'll say equals CountIF, and you'll see down here, you'll have your CountIF. Select CountIF. So you're going to see your range. So let's select a range up here, and we'll select this as well. And let's say we want to say, we want to count all values that have the number 5 in it because that's our median range. So here you're going to see what is your next prompt. Well, you have to add your comma. So you place your comma. And then what is your criteria? So what are you looking for? This is where you input that. So I'm looking for all the 5 values in this range. So then you're going to close your parenthesis. And so we can go ahead and count ourselves and just check 1, 2, 3, and 4. So there's 4 5s in this range. So our CountIF should look for 5s in this range and give us 4. Enter, and there is 4 values of 5. Now for the Vlookup function, basically what you're trying to do is say return a value that is associated with another value that we want to look up. So for example, we'll say, let's come over here and let's just type in a couple numbers. So say my name, Shae, let's say Ban and Jan. And so let's say Shae, right, has 25 dogs. And Ben has 14 dogs, and Jan has 36. And so what we'll say is, hey, we want to know how many dogs a specific individual has. So you can say equals Vlookup, select the lookup value. So here we want to say, okay, what is the value here that we are trying to look up? Well, we really want to know how many dogs Jan has. We're not really certain. So we're going to place our comma there. So your table array, so where do you want it to search? We want it to search all of this right here. We want to find out where is Jan and what value of dogs does she have, how many. So then we'll place a comma there. And then the column index number. So COL is column. So your index number is basically, it's going to consider this column 1 and this column 2. So we're going to say column 2 is where we want to search. And then what we want to do is say, yes, that's correct, comma, and then it's going to say the range lookup value. So do we want it to be approximate match or exact match? So approximate match would simply be, let's say, instead of Jan, it's going to be Janice. Instead of Ben, it's going to be Benjamin. So we're going to say we want an exact match. We don't want an approximate match. So we'll say that's false. Close the parenthesis, enter. So 36. Now we say Jan has 36 dogs. Now, if we address this a little bit differently, so we'll go ahead and delete that first area, and we'll say, hey, I want to find out how many dogs Ben has. So we'll see the value should be 14. We press enter, and there's 14. It's saying look up this value and find out what associated value is here. Now, the SumIF function here gives you the ability to basically say, hey, I want you to only sum the values if you find this value as well. So for example, we'll go ahead and delete all this. That's just going to return no value. That's fine. But basically, let's say, right, we have dog, dog, cat, cat, and dog. And let's say dogs are 3 here, 2, 5, 7, and then 1 right there. So let's say we want to sum only if we see the word cat. So we're going to say equals SumIF, so the SumIF function here. What is your range? So again, Excel is very good at giving you criteria to kind of search by. So this is our range. We want to search all of this. Now, comma. Now, what is your criteria? Well, I only want to know cat. I want to find out what items have cat, comma. And then what is your sum range? So the sum range is going to be all of this right here. So we want to only sum that range. Close parentheses, press enter. Now you're going to notice we get 6. So why? Because we have 1 cat there, and that's 5. 1 cat there, and that's 1. So right there, 5 plus 1 is 6. Now we're going to go ahead and do the dogs. Now we're going to say 3 plus 2 is 5, plus 7 is 12. So we know we should spit out 12. Now we're going to come here. We have the same range, right? We're going to edit our criteria here, there. So what is the criteria for the search? We want to know dog. Dog is what we're searching for. So again, we're saying search this for dog. And if you find dog, then sum up the values associated here. So we're going to press enter, and there's our 12. So SumIF, there is dog associated with those numbers. And current time is, guess what, equals now. So what is right now? You open that up, close the parenthesis. Although there's nothing in there, you're going to see magic happen, and voila, there it is. Today, the current time is 21:57, aka it is nighttime for me, and I should be going to bed, but instead, we're taking over some Excel knowledge here. So again, that's just an easy way to kind of press your date. You can do that as simple as some employers like you to timestamp certain things. So if you were to kind of come through and say equals right now, you have the time that you finish said spreadsheet. You can send it off to the next individual, sign it, date it, whatever the case may be. It's not the bulletproof system, obviously, because you could type in this information, but it is a nice way to kind of see, okay, what is the current time? And so I just want to thank you all for watching and staying till the end. If you guys found this valuable, please consider subscribing, and we will catch you all in the next video. Thank you very much.